Hello everyone, Deb Floros for Jesse James Beads. As the weather cools, we need to look for ways to accessorize in a little bit of a different way because we might be wearing scarves or turtlenecks, that kind of thing. So I'm going to use some amazing boho beads, and I'm going to start with mixing them with this Market Fresh Mini Mix Blackberry Baby. And these beads match these black beads so perfectly. You'll just need some head pins and a few other things. I'll show you those along the way. So I'm going to start with this gold 2-inch head pin, and I'm taking the tiniest of teardrops, and I'm just going to create a wire wrap loop. We're going to attach other beads to this little teardrop bead. So I'm just doing a couple, 2-3 wraps around and creating a nice loop that we can attach to in a bit. And I'm going to use my cutters and trim off that excess wire from the head pin and use some chain nose pliers to tighten up that little extra piece of wire. So cute. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the other one. So that little tiny teardrop, it's so tiny, but it's so cute. And we're gonna make a pair of earrings that are just so stunning for any time of year, but I love them for when you're like got a cozy sweater, that kind of thing. They're just going to stand out. So I'm cleaning up my wire and my loop and making sure that I've got everything straightened out there. Now I'm also going to be using some chain reaction chain. I love using the links from this chain. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I've got some 24 gauge wire in gold. I'm going to cut off about 3.5 inches 2 times, and then I'm going to create a wire wrap loop up top of this wire. So just going to get a nice loop and then trim off my excess, and then we're going to put on our next bead. And the next bead is going to be one of those smaller black fluted beads. And I love how these look. They're so very stylistic and they're so dramatic in black. So I'm going to wrap on the smaller one, and I'm going to start to create a loop up top, but I'm not going to wrap it just yet. I'm going to open it up a little bit and then take one of those tiny teardrops and add it to the loop. Grab my chain nose pliers, and I'm going to do a few wraps around the bottom of that flute. Now you can orient these flutes however you would like. We're probably going to do them a little bit dramatically here. So that one is going to have the smaller end at the bottom. So I've got now the larger flute, and this one is really spectacular. So I'm basically going to wrap that one and then attach that one to the smaller one. So I've got a little chain of beads, and what I want to do next is create another wire wrap loop. And what I'm going to do with this one after I clean up that little wrap is I'm going to create the other little dangle for this earring. So I've got another one of those flutes, and I'm creating a loop and attaching it to my other little teardrop piece, and that's going to go with my other boho bead. So I've got that all set to go. And then I'm going to create another wire wrap loop. And I like to always do my wrap up top and then add the bead and do the semi wrap at the bottom, and then do my attaching of the other beads. So just to give you some perspective on how I like to get these wraps done. So I'm gonna hold on with my chain nose pliers, do a few wraps around, and then trim off my excess and close up my little extra piece of wire. So I'm ready to go with those. Now I've got a couple more of those small small flutes, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut off my sections of those little connector pieces on the chain reaction chain. So in this case, I've got 4 of them. So I'm going to cut that off, and you do have to cut those little jump rings in between because they're technically closed jump rings and so thin they really can't be reused. You kind of have to sacrifice those. So I've got one of those small flutes. I'm going to start a wire wrap loop, and then I'm going to open up that loop and attach it directly to the chain reaction chain. And if you're more comfortable, you could do your complete wire wrap loop and attach the bead to the chain with a jump ring, if that makes you feel more comfortable. I like the clean look of attaching it directly to the piece of chain. So there we go. We've got this long dangle. So that one's going to be a little bit longer than the dangle that we just created. Now I'm kind of looking at how long I want my third piece to be. And I'm going to cut off a couple of my links. And I'm going to grab those barrel-shaped beads. So from that Blackberry Baby, I'm going to use the little barrel-shaped beads, and I'm going to also wrap that onto a couple of the links of chain. So that's going on a head pin. And then I'm going to create a loop, and then I'm going to open up that loop a little bit and take the piece of chain and just 2 of the links and wire wrap that directly on, holding on to the loop with my chain nose pliers. So that stark black, that different shape is just going to add some interest to this combination of things that will dangle from that boho bead. So that's what it's looking like. Then I'm going to grab some 22 gauge wire. Now this is going to be how I get the larger bead secured. So that boho bead is a little heavier. It's got holes that are a little more substantive. So I want a little bit of a thicker wire. So the 22 gauge is perfect for this application. I'm going to do some kind of chunky wraps. And like that, just like to make them kind of messy, but not terribly messy, but just big enough that they will hold with a larger hole bead, like a boho bead. Then I'm going to do a bit of a larger loop at the bottom. So I'm going to go a little further down on my round nose pliers, creating a little bit of a larger loop. And when I strung these on, I realized that that fluted bead doesn't play nice with the chain. So I'm going to cut off a few more links of my chain reaction chain. And that's going to kind of even things out in terms of all of the dangly bits that hang from this earring. So I am going to use a jump ring in this case since I've already wrapped all of those beads. I'm going to take an oval jump ring and I'm going to attach 2 links to the little beaded section of beads. So the 2 flutes and the little teardrop bead. And then I will attach that to the loop, and that will sort of even out all of the dangles because these 3 dangles will all have the same start to them. So they'll each have one of those links, and they'll kind of fan out and look really interesting and cool side by side. So I'm just sliding all of those on to the wire, and I'm putting them all the way up into the loop that I created. And it might take a little bit of patience because the holes at the ends of those chain links are a little bit small. So I'm testing out how that's going to look. See, they're all side by side. I think that looks really interesting and unique, kind of creates a little fan effect. And then I can go around and create the wraps to close off that loop and attach all of those dangles and get my boho beads situated. I absolutely love these earrings. All we need now is a pair of ear wires. I'm going to use some simple ball end French hook ear wires, and I think they will be perfect for this kind of earring. These are a little bold, a little long, and with a beautiful sweater or even a sweater and scarf, you still have an earring that's going to show up. It's going to stand out. It's going to be spectacular. I love how these dangly boho earrings look. Super cool, lots of black, lots of gold, and a little pop of pink from those bohos. Now these are some of my favorites. I'm gonna mix them up with a couple of beads from the Adventure Awaits mini mix. Those little teardrops, those glowy teardrops, they are going to fit right into those large whole orange beads. And I absolutely love the colors of these. So you see, I'm just putting the first one onto a head pin, putting on the boho bead, and then putting on the teardrop going in the opposite direction. And then just creating a wire wrap loop. And I think the combination of that darker glowy orange with the lighter textured boho bead is absolute perfection. And you might need a little help wrapping your head pin. Just use your chain nose pliers to do that. I love them. And I'm going to use these fun hoop earrings. I'm just going to slide the loop of the earring right onto my hoop, and those are going to dangle down and really stand out against whatever it is that you're wearing in your winter wardrobe. Now, what about these? These are so sparkly and fabulous. Oh my gosh. Now, there are some more beads in that Adventure Awaits mini mix that will just kind of help make this bead even more extra special. We're just adding, again, some oranges. I'm just so drawn to orange these days, but I'm using one of the small stone beads, then putting on my boho bead, and then that larger orangey crystal. And it brings out the oranges in that boho bead, because believe it or not, there are some oranges in those little rainbowy crystals all around that bead. So just creating another wire wrap loop. All of these earrings are pretty darn easy to make. And I've got these fun ear wires that will just help these earrings look extra special. Sometimes you want a unique ear wire. Sometimes you want a plain ear wire. I went for the more unique one, and this is going to make this earring dangle down nicely. I love all of these earrings. These boho earrings are perfect to chase the winter blues away and create so many fun compliments that you will surely receive if you wear these and you've created them. Check everything out to make these at jessiejamesbeads.com. Thanks so much for watching.